When Renee Calloway discovered her husband's hidden lake house, she thought the betrayal couldn't cut deeper. But what she found inside wasn't just infidelity, it was a blueprint for her own erasure. And that's when she decided if he wanted to vanish her from his life, she'd make sure his entire world disappeared first. My name is Renee Calloway, and for 8 years, I thought I had the perfect marriage. Ethan used to say, "You make chaos look calm." I believed him, because when you love someone deeply, you start mistaking their flattery for truth. We met at a charity gala where he was the charming financial consultant everyone adored, polite smile, sharp suit, and the kind of confidence that made people lean in. I was a registered nurse back then, exhausted from night shifts but proud of what I did. Ethan said he admired that about me, my discipline, my empathy. He said he wanted a woman who could see beyond money. Funny, isn't it, how men say that, until money becomes the only thing that matters? Our home in Portland was modest yet warm. White oak floors, a small backyard garden I had planted myself, and a wall full of our travel photos, Paris, Florence, and Vancouver. Every memory felt genuine. Every smile in those pictures felt earned. Until 3 weeks ago. That's when I received an email from Julia Marston, a real estate agent. She wrote, "Mrs. Calloway, following up on your husband's inquiry, would you and Mr. Calloway like to finalize the transfer for the Lakeview property this week?" Lakeview property? We didn't own a lake house. At first, I thought it was spam. But the email included Ethan's personal signature, his full name, phone number, and company logo. I remember staring at the screen, my fingers trembling over the keyboard as if typing might confirm what my heart already feared. That night, Ethan came home late, the faint scent of expensive cologne I didn't recognize lingering on his jacket. When I asked about the email, he smiled too quickly and said, "Oh, that's just a client investment. Nothing personal." But when I checked our joint account later, $48,000 was missing. He must have thought I wouldn't notice. He must have thought that the woman who spent her life watching heart monitors and tiny details would miss a sudden financial hemorrhage. The next morning, I drove to Lakeview Estates, the address listed in the email. And there it was, a modern 2-story cabin overlooking the water, with glass panels reflecting the morning sun. Beautiful, peaceful, deceptive. And parked outside was a car I'd seen before, Sophia Trent's silver Lexus. Sophia, Ethan's colleague. The one he swore was just a friend. My stomach turned cold. I didn't go inside. I just stood there, my hand on the car door handle, trying to breathe. The laughter from inside the cabin drifted out through the open window. His voice, her voice, intertwined, careless, happy. I should have cried. I should have screamed. But I didn't. I turned around, walked back to my car, and whispered to myself, "He built his glass house. Now I'll show him how easily it shatters." That's when Renee Calloway stopped being the faithful wife and started becoming something else. The drive back from Lakeview felt endless. Every turn of the road played back pieces of our marriage. The vows, the laughter, the vacations, the nights I stayed awake waiting for Ethan's late returns from client meetings. I realized then that the signs were always there. I'd just been too loyal to see them. But grief is a sharp teacher, and mine taught me fast. That night, while Ethan slept soundly beside me, I unlocked his iPad, the one synced to his work email. I'd never violated his privacy before, but after hearing his voice in that cabin, privacy no longer existed. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. A folder named Consulting Portfolio 2 contained documents that weren't about consulting at all. They were about ownership. Ethan had been transferring small sums, $4,000, $6,000, $9,000, from joint accounts into a company I'd never heard of, ECS Holdings. Listed under its registration were 2 names, Ethan Calloway and Sophia Trent. He hadn't just cheated emotionally. He'd built a financial life with her. I stared at their signatures beside each other, the ink of betrayal in digital form. My pulse slowed, not in panic, but in clarity. Because at that moment I knew, Ethan didn't just need to lose me. He needed to lose everything he built on my trust. For the next week, I played my part perfectly. The devoted wife. The calm nurse. The woman was too naive to notice her husband's late nights and hushed calls. But behind closed doors, I began assembling my own kind of operation. I met with Adrian Holt, an old friend and financial auditor who owed me a favor. I didn't tell him the details, just handed him Ethan's iPad and said, "I need to know where every cent is going." Quietly. By the following Friday, Adrian sent me a private message. "Renee, your husband's been shifting assets into Sophia's name. Real estate, offshore accounts, even crypto. Looks like he's preparing to disappear clean." Disappear. I read that word over and over until it didn't make sense anymore. Ethan wasn't just cheating, he was planning to erase me. But what he didn't know was that he married a woman who understood how to rebuild from ashes. And this time, I wasn't the one burning. So I made the first move. I withdrew $10,000 from our remaining savings, enough to hire Miles Everett, a private investigator with a reputation for subtlety. He didn't need details, only results. Within 3 days, he sent me a USB drive containing photographs, call logs, and videos. There they were again, Ethan and Sophia, signing papers, laughing at the lake house, living out their fantasy. In one photo, Ethan held a champagne glass, looking at her the way he used to look at me. I didn't cry. I just smiled and whispered, "Perfect. Keep celebrating." Because in the world Ethan built, one of deceit and numbers, I was about to become his greatest miscalculation. There's a peculiar calm that follows heartbreak, a numbness that feels almost surgical. Maybe that's why, as a nurse, I understood how to cut without spilling emotion. By the time Ethan left for his conference in Seattle, I'd already mapped every move he didn't know I could make. He thought he was erasing me from the picture, but I'd already made copies of everything. The USB from Miles Everett was my weapon. Inside were not just photos and transaction records, but also video proof of Ethan signing a property deed with Sophia. The footage clearly captured him saying, "Once it's all under your name, she'll never trace a thing." He was wrong. I traced everything. The first step was leverage. I met with Adrian Holt again, this time in a quiet cafe near downtown Portland. The rain outside softened the world, muffling our conversation as I slid a manila envelope across the table. "I need you to prepare an anonymous financial report, a formal summary of Ethan's hidden accounts and shell companies. Make it look like it's from an internal audit." Adrian hesitated. "Renee, you sure you want to do this? Once it's on record, there's no going back." I looked him dead in the eyes. He planned to steal my future. I'm just reclaiming it. By the next morning, the report was ready, detailed, damning, and professionally formatted. I sent a copy to Ethan's firm's compliance department under an alias, whistlesafe@protonmail.com. Within 48 hours, his office was in chaos. He called me at work that evening, his voice strained, anxious. "Renee, something weird's happening at the office. Someone's accusing me of fraud." I almost laughed at how natural he sounded playing the victim. "That's awful," I said gently, my tone steady. "Do you have any idea who'd do that?" He sighed. "No clue. But don't worry, I'll fix it." Of course he would. Ethan always fixed things when they benefited him. The second step was exposure. Using the investigator's data, I found out Sophia wasn't just his mistress. She was also named the secondary beneficiary on one of his life insurance policies. My name had been quietly removed 6 months earlier. That stung. Not because of the money, but because he'd planned my absence so thoroughly, it was as if I had already died. But that also meant something important. I could use that policy against him. That night, I sent Sophia a text from a temporary number. He told me everything. "Meet me tomorrow, Lakeview, 5 p.m. If you don't show, I'll show everyone." When she arrived the next day, I was already there, standing near the same cabin where I'd once heard her laughter.
She froze when she saw me.
"Renee, I didn't know you'd." I held up my phone. "You knew enough.
You knew he was married.
You knew what you were signing." Her lips trembled. "Please, don't ruin his career. He loves you in his own way, but..." I cut her off. "Don't insult me with recycled lies. This isn't about love anymore. It's about truth." I handed her a small envelope, photographs, emails, proof of the financial fraud. Take a good look. You're listed as an accomplice. Now tell me, how much is your reputation worth? Her face went pale. Before she could answer, I walked away, my heels crunching on the gravel. Behind me, I could hear her sobbing softly. By the time I reached my car, I wasn't just a betrayed wife anymore. I was a strategist. And Ethan Calloway had just been outplayed by the woman he thought was too gentle to fight back. By the end of that week, the storm had begun. Ethan's firm suspended him pending an internal investigation. His clients started pulling out, terrified of being linked to financial misconduct. The Lakeview property, the secret pride of his double life, was frozen under an asset review. He came home 2 nights later, eyes hollow, voice trembling with rehearsed sincerity. "Renee, I swear to God, I don't know how this happened. Someone's trying to destroy me." I looked at him the same way I used to look at patients right before delivering a hard truth, calm, compassionate, detached. "Maybe it's just karma finally doing its rounds," I said quietly. He frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" I didn't answer. Instead, I handed him an envelope, divorce papers. He froze. "You can't be serious." "I'm very serious, Ethan. You built a life with someone else. Now you can live in it. Alone." For the first time, I saw fear flicker behind his eyes. Not fear of losing me, but fear of losing control. He grabbed my wrist. "You'll regret this, Renee." I smiled, the kind of smile that comes only after you've already survived the worst.
No, Ethan.
"You will." He left that night, slamming the door behind him. In the weeks that followed, his empire disintegrated. The internal audit became a federal inquiry. The company cut all ties to protect its image. Sophia, terrified of legal consequences, turned over her correspondence with Ethan. Every email, every transfer, every digital footprint. The same day the investigators contacted him, he tried to liquidate his crypto accounts, but Adrian had already traced the withdrawals. They were flagged and frozen within hours. Everything Ethan thought he could hide, I had already exposed. When he finally called me again, it wasn't anger I heard in his voice, it was defeat. "You destroyed me." "No, Ethan," I said softly. "You destroyed yourself." I just turned on the lights. 6 months later, my divorce was finalized. The court granted me a fair share of the remaining assets, what little he hadn't tried to bury. The judge noted Ethan's pattern of financial misconduct and sided entirely in my favor. I moved into a small apartment overlooking the Willamette River. It wasn't grand, but it was mine, every inch of it. Peaceful, honest. One evening, as I watched the sunset stain the water gold, I received a message from Adrian. He's declared bankruptcy. Left the city. No one's sure where he went. I stared at the screen for a moment, then deleted the message. Ethan Calloway no longer existed in my world. But Renee Calloway, the woman he tried to erase, was reborn from his ashes, sharper, freer, and finally in control of her own story. He built his life on lies. I rebuilt mine on truth. And in the end, that's the sweetest revenge of all.